Yeah, Seton.
When you were in high school, how the idea of you becoming an NFL player, was it something that was on your mind or like on your coach's mind in high school, or was that sort of far off?
Not at all. So probably was my dream until like sixth grade, maybe. My dad's 5'9", 170 pounds. And I was like
A
a
fury.
real
Yeah.
late bloomer.
Mm.
So I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to like work for ESPN or be a writer for Sports Illustrated. And then I all of a sudden, even in 10th grade, I was 6', 175. But then my junior year, I sprouted and was almost 6'4", 210, wow, and started getting a couple scholarship offers and interest from Ivy League schools. But I remember specifically Seton thinking, I'm never going to be an NFL player. Like, I'm not even good enough for major college, Penn State or Notre Dame or whatever. So if I can go to Princeton or Harvard because of football, I have to do it. So not even a speck on the radar screen.
Wow.
I would say in high school. Just thrilled that it enabled me to go to an Ivy League school, which is really good timing because that's actually the story I have for our next guest who joins us every Wednesday at this time. But before I bring on Marcellus Wiley, who does a great job hosting his podcast on the Dan Patrick Podcast Network, I thought he had some interesting things to say about Russell Wilson recently on the show.
The glaring issue was Russell Wilson wanted the plays to break down so he can show up and show out. And that's something that is not replicable. That's not something that you can repeat as a coordinator. That's not a play you can call. Hey, we're going to run 42X breakdown play on 3. Like, stay on script. Stick to the script. And Russell Wilson is actually better off script. And imagine if you're the coordinator or the coach, what play are you calling off script? So his inaccuracy is showing his ugly head, but more importantly, that broken inner clock that he always had. He couldn't feel the rush, or he wanted the rush to come so he can activate Russell Wilson and go out there and just run around in circles and 7 seconds later complete a pass.
That is from More to It on the Dan Patrick Podcast Network from Marcellus Wiley. Marcellus does a really good like that. I like that. That was the highlight there. Marcellus, really appreciate you coming on the show. Now, I can't remember if I told you this story or not before, but the guys are going to love this, okay? So Seton just asked me about, me in the NFL or whatever, and I said I was a late bloomer. The first letters I got were winter of my junior year of high school were from Ivy League schools. So spring break, okay, I didn't tell any of my buddies what I was doing for spring break because I was going to go visit Harvard, Yale, and Columbia. And I didn't want to tell them that because they would have been like, yeah, right, dude, you're not smart enough to go there. Who do you think you are? Whatever. I just didn't want to say anything. So I go up to Harvard, see the campus, whatever, but I didn't see any players. Go to Yale, see the campus, meet the coaches, still haven't met any players. The first school where I actually saw what Ivy League players looked like, because I had no idea. Mike Donnelly, okay, the great Mike Donnelly.
You're great, yes.
Takes me into the weight room at Columbia, and I'm a junior in high school. This is spring break. This would have been spring of 96. I'm like 6'4", 230. I'm wearing my Why I'm Missing leather jacket because in Pennsylvania, that's what you do if you want girls. You put the leather jacket on, and two players come up to me to say hi. Marcellus Wiley, who was a 6'5", 275-pound D-end, and Rory Wilfork.
Yes.
And I remember thinking two things. One is, these guys are really nice. That's really cool they came over to talk to me. And secondly, I can't even play in the Ivy League. I mean, look at this guy. Marcellus was like 6'5", 275. You had all kinds. I was like, oh my God. And because Columbia was historically really bad. Now, I know you guys that year, you had been like 8-2, or that next year you were, whatever. But I was like, this is what the Columbia dudes look like?
Yeah, you were like, dude, this NFL dream I have is never going to happen, because you're like, if these two dudes are in the Ivy League. What the hell does a Notre Dame player really look like in live in person? But
I was just so upset that in my mind, I couldn't even play in the Ivy League. I was so upset. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't play against guys like this. But people don't know your story. Real quick, before we get into the other things, refresh my memory. Didn't you go to Columbia as like a 6'2", 200-pound running back or something?
Oh, even smaller than that. I was a 6 foot, 180-pound kick returner / running back. Like I was damn near a tall Warwick Dunn. It was crazy. And then I just kept putting on weight, 20 pounds, and I would grow 1 inch every single year. All my friends knew it was coming. I was a late bloomer like you, probably even later. But my mother was huge, and I say that respectfully. She was 6'1", 250. She was like Mike Singletary. And here I am in college playing football, and I'm smaller than my mom. So everyone knew it was coming. It just happened on Columbia's watch.
So there's two funny things about that, Marcellus. Number one, my wife and I talk about this all the time because she was with me during my 7 years in the NFL. Some guys have big dads, some guys don't. Every guy has a big mom. Every guy has a big mom. Do you know any NFL lineman whose mother is not a bigger woman?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's how Thanksgiving dinner gets cooked, and then that's how those players grow because mama had the triceps hanging and Big Mama was in the kitchen. So yeah, my mom was gigantic, and I used to always just sit there like guys would tease me, be like, your mom is huge, and it's just jokes. But I was like, one day that's gonna pay dividends, y'all, and it finally turned into a signing bonus.
Talking with the great Marcellus Wiley, former NFL All-Pro defensive end. He's the host of More to It on the Dan Patrick Podcast Network. It's funny because I remember one time I said something to my mom about how, I liked girls like her. Like, she's 5'9" and broader shouldered, not as big as your mom, but broader shouldered and 5'9". I said, I don't, because back then, Marcellus, the models were like Kate Moss and stuff. So like any of the magazines, they were like wafer thin. I was like, I'm not into that. I said, like you, Mom, you're big but beautiful. And my dad looked at me, Marcellus, like, you're dead. And my mom said, she took a sip of like her wine. She's like, well, Ross, I looked different before I had a 10-pound baby. Oh, and it was hilarious. So let's get into a couple of these football things. The Russell Wilson point you made is a really good one. I thought it was interesting, Marcellus, hearing or seeing, I guess, Mike Purcell go after Russell Wilson in the game, or at least go up to him, because Dan asked me about it on Monday, and I said to him, I don't know the tone there. Was it like encouraging, like, come on, man, you can do this? Or was it like, hey, bro, get your you-know-what together? Because to me, Marcellus, those are two very different things.
Yeah, they're two different things, but you don't have to know what the tone was to know that this was insubordination. And this is not supposed to happen when Russell Wilson, your franchise quarterback, is going through his struggles. Your team is going through his struggles. The head coach is going through his struggles. So you know that any conversation that has that type of look, we know what the context is and we know how we're going to interpret it. It's going to be contentious. So now you have a lineman, I don't give a damn who he is, coming up to the star quarterback and trying to check him on the sidelines. You only do that when you're losing respect for who that guy is. Like, you let his reputation precede him. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's a champion. He's your franchise quarterback. And you let one slide. You let another pass slide. You let another quarter slide. You let another game slide. And finally, you're at your wit's end and you're like, dude, I don't give a damn who you are, blah, blah, blah. So that showed me that this is not only something that Russell Wilson has to deal with, losing respect on that team, but more importantly, how many guys have he lost? Because when one guy comes up to you, he's fueled by 10 other guys who want to say the same damn thing.
So the one thing I really liked about the point you made on your podcast, More to It, part of the Dan Patrick Podcast Network, is how so much of what Russell's done over the years is the second reaction stuff, which is why I'm not really buying the new offense thing that much, because what's always made him a special player is the second reaction stuff. I don't know if he has it anymore. I don't know if he can do it anymore. And if he doesn't have the second reaction stuff, he's got a problem, and Denver's got a major problem.
Yeah, if you think about it, Russell Wilson has thrived off of plan B in terms of play calling for so long. And now, because he's not honed in on those fundamentals, plan A, staying on script, staying on schedule, it seems like it's a little too late to try and fix his issues. I don't know what's going to be the solve, but it won't be different play calling because Russell Wilson, his reflexes are to always let the play break down, not to stay on that first read, second read, and then try to bail out. But Russell Wilson likes to bail out first, and that's when he has the most success. So you think about it, it's been really disguised because he's had a tremendous defense in Seattle, the early years especially, and he had the running game in Seattle. So now you're in just the play action passing, safer passes, and also a time for you to take off and get big dividends. Now they're just saying, look, we know what you like to do, Russell Wilson, so we're going to take that off the board. Now you have to beat us by being disciplined. Now you have to beat us by that strict play call. And Russell Wilson so far is failing at it.
Curious to get your take on Jeff Saturday. I know you've talked about him being a coach with Dan the last couple of weeks, but what about what happened Monday night, not calling the timeout, and then yesterday, Jeff accepting accountability for it and saying that he made the mistake? What did you think of that?
Look, it's two things conflating as one. I've seen Bill Belichick have coaching mistakes, miscues, errors. I can remember a 4th and 2 in Indianapolis a few years ago. Like every coach has this mistake on their resume. The thing is, when you don't have that deeper resume, let's not have that mistake happen too early, because now we're going to say, see, that's why he's unqualified. See, this is why you shouldn't skip the line. Well, the greatest coach of all time on down has had this same clock management issue before at the end of the game. That said, this is how you take your lumps. This is how you go through the growing pains. This is the rites of passage in terms of making a mistake, owning that mistake, and making sure that's something you never do again. And that's how we learned the game as well. How many times did you come back from a game, whether it was a glowing performance or one that made you put your head down? And then you start watching film and coach gets that red dot on you and he says, see this right here? See this right here? And then next time you're out there, you're only cognizant of it because it was highlighted as a miscue. So for me and Jeff Saturday, I thought it was a good hire. I'm getting really tired of the same old rigmarole of, okay, you're a assistant coach and then you become a coordinator and your team is top 5 as a coordinator on defense and offense. And then you become a head coach and you're going to fail because you're going to a bad team and a bad organization and the cycle continues. So, hey, shake it up a little bit. And Jeff Saturday is going to learn the hard way, but I still think it was a good hire.
Marcellus, if you were running the show in Green Bay, I don't care if you're the head coach, LaFleur, maybe you're the GM, Gutekunst, how much longer are you rolling with Aaron Rodgers this year? Or when are you trying to see what you got in Jordan Love for the rest of the year?
I mean, that's a question that's too late to ask right now because you committed 3 years, $150 million to him, but I get the gist of what you're saying. I don't need to see Jordan Love. When I have that type of commitment to a first ballot Hall of Famer, top 10, top 5 quarterback of all time, I'm riding it till the wheels fall off. And we know that the wheels could fall off this year mathematically once they're eliminated from the playoffs. The injuries won't be my concern if I'm the coach, if I'm the general manager, if I'm an organization. If he wants to play, he will play because we committed to him and he's committed to this game. Jordan Love, I've seen Jordan Love. Jordan Love practices every day. Jordan Love was in the games last year. We know what Jordan Love is, and it's not Aaron Rodgers and probably not a good enough version or portion of Aaron Rodgers for you to feel full confidence. If he were, we would have seen him earlier. They would have changed the narrative last year and allowed him more opportunities. So to say now, I want to go back to Jordan Love because Aaron Rodgers is hurt and the team is bad, let's just see what we have. That's fool's gold. This is what happens to every team that hits adversity, every team that goes through their ills. The most popular player on that team is the backup quarterback. because he holds everyone's imagination. Everyone's, oh, if we put him in, everything can change. And most times that's a failing situation. We already know who Jordan Love is. This is not the time to see more.
Make sure you check him out, Marcellus Wiley, on More to It on the Dan Patrick Podcast Network. This week, Marcellus is going to tell you why OBJ should be wearing that star on the side of his helmet soon, how Deshaun Watson got in this predicament just days before his return, which weirdly, we're not really talking about all that much, and how T.O. was lucky he didn't get more than he paid for at CVS. Marcellus, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Ivy. Keep it going, Ross.
All right. There he is. Marcellus Wiley, the guy that made me feel like I couldn't play in the Ivy League. That was wild. I remember thinking, oh boy, I'm in trouble.